Team, what's up? As you continue on this journey, there's something that you may encounter that I want to warn you about. It's called imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is an irrational insecurity that makes one question their abilities, accomplishments, and status, and that can cause an incessant fear of being exposed as a fraud. It's irrational because it's not based on the evidence. In fact, a lot of very successful people struggle with imposter syndrome because it's more about how you feel about yourself than it is about how you perform and how others feel about you. I always say it like this: it's more about what's in your head than it is about what's in your hands. You could be the best in the world, but if you don't think you're the best and feel like you're in that position because of luck or for some other reason, you may have a case of imposter syndrome. There are different reasons why people struggle with it, but it generally plagues people who are perfectionists, have a poor self-image, and aren't confident in their abilities. And you need to know this because some of you are here because you've fallen into a similar trap when it comes to failure. You've allowed your feelings to blind you to the fact that you've actually been doing okay. Yeah, you may have some work that you need to do, but the way you feel isn't necessarily supported by the evidence. Feeling like a failure doesn't actually mean you're a failure. It only means that you feel like one. And you and I both know that you can't always trust your feelings because feelings aren't always trustworthy. You could feel like a failure for the same reason someone else feels like an imposter, because it's not based on the truth. It's based on an irrational perception of reality. So, if you already struggle with one, it's very possible that you could struggle with the other. And I want to make sure that you know how to deal with it if it ever comes up, because for some of you, it will. So in the event that it does, I want you to use the TEAM method to fight against imposter syndrome. TEAM is an acronym that stands for talk, expose, affirm, and measure. If you ever feel like you're experiencing imposter syndrome, the first thing you want to do is to talk about it with someone. Ideally, you want to talk to a therapist or a mentor who can help you work through those feelings of inadequacy, because those feelings aren't based on your actual abilities. And hopefully, as you talk through those feelings, you'll begin to accept the truth of how deserving, authentic, and capable you are. A lot of us struggle with things in silence, and getting it out in the open will not only afford you the help you need, but it will also relieve you of some of the burden you've been carrying alone. Next is exposure. If the evidence shows that you can do the work, then something that may help you work through feeling like an imposter is exposing yourself to others who are also doing the work. A lot of times people feel like imposters because they've only been exposed to the very best and end up judging themselves from the top, not realizing that there's a broad range of expertise within whatever field or practice they're involved with. And exposing yourself to the broader field will not only help you determine where you belong, but it can also show you that you belong. There's levels to everything, and exposing yourself to the different levels will not only help you see that you're not a fraud because there are people with the same skill set and experience as you, but it could also give you the validation and credibility that you feel like you need from those who are also in that field or practice. Because if people in that field or practice can vouch for you, it's going to be a lot harder for you not to believe in yourself. The next thing you can do is to give yourself affirmation for your accomplishments. You need to begin recognizing and celebrating your accomplishments, because people with imposter syndrome often downplay their abilities and achievements and don't give themselves the credit that they deserve. So affirming yourself is going to be extremely important for you because it can help you strengthen your self-image. Back in week 1, we talked about 5 of the choices that you need to make on a daily basis, and believing in yourself was the very first choice on that list. You can't believe in yourself while simultaneously questioning whether you're a fraud. The proof is in what you do, and you've been doing the work. So trust that the work is paying off. Another one of our 5 daily choices, trusting the process. and affirm yourself for being who you said you wanted to be and doing what you said you wanted to do. Lastly, you need to measure your accomplishments instead of measuring yourself to other people. I'm going to say that again. Measure your accomplishments instead of measuring yourself to other people. One of the reasons you may feel like a fraud is because you might be comparing yourself to people you're not even in competition with. So what you need to do is to stop looking at people and focus your attention on what you've already done and what you plan to do. You have to remember that imposter syndrome is not about the truth. It's about how you feel. It's about your perception of the truth. You could be a high achiever and still feel like a fraud. So instead of comparing yourself to people and relying on your feelings to give you some type of objective truth, use the work that you've put in to measure where you are. Measure your growth, measure your performance, and measure your achievements, because the only person you're in competition with is yourself. And measuring how far you've come is a great way to show yourself that there's nothing fraudulent about you. If you're really about that life, the proof will be right there. So if you ever feel like you don't belong, feel like you're where you are because of luck, or feel like you're not really the person your work says you are, remember to use the team method of talk, expose, affirm, and measure to help you work through those feelings of inadequacy, because they're not true. You're neither a failure or a fraud. And don't you forget it. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.